We're back with our continuing coverage from Taipei, and I want to welcome Team Solomid senior most member, their man in the top lane, Dyrus. Dyrus, first off, well, you get a fantastic applause. Wow, well, you know what? Just talk to them for a minute first, because the fan support for you guys is amazing here.
I love you guys, thank you.
And they love you. Now, first off, can you make sense of the madness that is your group right now? Because you guys absolutely crushed SK, then they're doing pretty good versus Royal Club, then you guys did not do good at all versus Royal Club. TPA is looking pretty good. Make sense of the madness.
All right, so to start things off, with SK, they don't have their jungler, but of course their sub-jungler is also pretty good too. We had a plan, we executed it when we played against Royal. We had a plan, and you know, things kind of went not our way. Personally, I don't think that game really represents our skill level at our very, very best, obviously, and we're gonna try our best, do better, and not come in cocky.
Well, talking about skill level in that matchup, you seem to be struggling a lot with that Aurelia Rise matchup. Is that something that you're not comfortable with?
It wasn't really about the champions, it was how we played with the champions. And personally, one-on-one, there's a lot I could have done that I didn't do, and I'm gonna look to fix that next time.
Well, when you look at that defeat, I heard you talking in the preview show how at PAX you were very emotional and you thought that actually wasn't a good mindset to be in as a team. So how do you kind of keep from doing that when you got a game like yesterday?
Well, for the first game, we had it in control because we'd be getting too excited, like, oh, we're winning, it's so easy. And then when we're losing, it's like, oh, we're losing, what do we do? You know, there's two different mindsets, and it's a lot easier when you're winning than you're losing, obviously, for every single team.
What lessons have you drawn from the matches you've played so far, and actually specifically the matchup versus Starhorn Royal Club? How big do you think the gap is between you guys, that team, maybe Chinese teams overall, and then one step further, maybe the Korean teams?
Well, when I'm talking about, you know, the gaps and stuff, like, no matter what I say, is like, Dyrus, you're full of it, you know? But personally, like, I don't want to say anything until we've proved it on stage, because actions speak louder than words. And last year, you know, I said certain things also, and you know, I didn't back it up myself. So before any of that, we're just going to show you on stage.
Well, you've got a fantastic chance to prove that later on. You will be fighting the team that is a home crowd favorite here, TPA. What an important match in this group. Tell me your thoughts on the matchup.
TPA is definitely top 3 in our group, and I'm not too sure how it'll play out, because when we watch them play compared to playing, it's a lot different. And we'll just show it on stage once again.
Well, we will see indeed. Finally, Dyrus, you were telling me kind of about your experiences here and the things and the fans you've been able to meet. Tell that story for the guys out here, because they do love you.
The story of the fans?
Yeah, that you told me before, how we were meeting all of them out here.
There's so many fans here that support us as TSM, as you can all see. And everyone here is so humble, happy, and you know, there's fans everywhere we go, but we don't know how many and how much they like us. Like, there's different levels of fans. Like, some will come up and hug me, some will tell me to sign on inside their shirt, some will give me gifts. Like, here, it's been very humbling.
Good save. Well, thank you very much, and good luck in your later matchup.
Thank you.
All right, now let's send it over to our guys at the desk to set the stage for our next match.
Thank you very much, guys. We are gearing up for Game 4 as Dark Passage will be taking on Samsung White. And Dark Passage are going to have an incredibly difficult time against Samsung White, because even though early in the day they sort of held off the first 10 minutes against Edward Gaming, Samsung White are much stronger, much earlier in the game, and I'm very nervous for the Turkish champions. You know, how are they going to withstand this Korean powerhouse?
Yeah, I honestly am not sure their best strategy. I would say right now it's kind of, what's the word, like damage control. Like, make sure it doesn't crush you guys, because they still have a chance to do stuff in this group. So I would say take this game with a grain of salt, kind of do as well as you can, and then, learn something from it and apply it to the next set.
Monty, what's your take? I mean, there's very little chance. We've seen HQ pull a risky strategy yesterday, and it didn't work out in their favor.
Yeah, and HQ is, of course, arguably the better team than Dark Passage as well. So, I don't know. It seems like the cheese was read really well yesterday. White responded beautifully to that, and it gave them an even bigger advantage. So, at this point, I think you just kind of have to choose how fast you want to lose.
Well, let's highlight one person on Samsung White who I was quite impressed by, Looper. His first professional game was last year at Worlds. And in his first game here at Worlds, he pulled out the Rumble, surprised many of us, played incredibly well with it, is still performing as expected, really. He's one of the best top laners in the game. What's your take on Looper and the rest of the team here?
The first professional Rumble game from Looper was actually quite a surprise for me because that's really not a Looper-style champion. I mean, when we think of this guy last year when he made his professional debut, it was a lot of, particularly his Singed play was very notable. And then from there, he's moved into, he's always been a big Mundo player as well, but typically he plays these top lane tanks. So for him to play kind of a mid-game carry was really interesting to me. And so I'm curious if he's going to start transitioning into a more aggressive style, or if we're just going to see him, as we run deeper into this tournament, go back to his old comfort picks.
Final thoughts probably before we move on?
I think something it could be reading too much into it, but since you're saying he has a typical playstyle of certain champions, maybe the Rumble pick is something to terrify his opponents later on.
Yeah.
They're going to go, oh wait, this guy plays Rumble now? What do we do against this? We thought he played this, this, and this. So it could be a strategic thing, or just, we really wanted to play Rumble.
And if Samsung White are feeling very confident in this matchup, they could also pull out some more surprise picks this game. It is time to lock in your predictions, gentlemen. Who do you guys think is going to win? I'm going to start with the conductor himself. Do we even need to ask?
No.
So Monte
Dark
Cristo is
Passage
going
for
to pick
Monty.
Samsung White. He's very confident in their individual play as well as their strategic ability. I am going to ask Prolly, do you know who's going to win?
Yeah, I got to go with my boy Pawn. I've loved him for a long time. He beats Faker, and I don't hold it against him, so I'm going to go with Samsung White.
All right, fair enough. We'll see how well Pawn can perform. All right, the fans are in agreement with both of you guys, and according to LOLesports.com, they are also saying Samsung White. Preview show called this group David and Goliath. We'll see if David can throw any of those slings. Teams loading on a champ select. Let's send it over to the casters to get us back into the action.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot, and hello, everyone. We've switched out the desk. I'm Riving DeBism III, along with Joshua Jat Leesman and Martin DeFisciolunga. This is going to be some amazing matches, and it's already started the day off crazy.
Yeah, man, this is going to be really good. This is our first time actually casting as a trio, so I can't wait. We got some world-class games about coming up. This one, definitely David and Goliath, though, so we'll see what ends up happening.
It's been so amazing. We're going to dive right into our next battle with a look at the starting lineups. On the blue side, it is Dark Passage. That means in the top lane, it is Fab Fabulous. In the jungle, it's going to be Crystal. Mid lane is Naru. At AD carry is Holy Phoenix, and supporting him is Touch.
And on the red side, of course, it's Samsung White, the Giants right here. Looper in the top lane, Dandy in the jungle, Pawn in mid lane, and of course, Imp and Mata in the bottom lane.
Really, absolutely the Giants, and it's going to be tough for Dark Passage this game. We'll say that right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to say it. They don't have any pressure on them to perform here.
True.
Go in there, play the laning phase, see what you can get from it. Maybe you can learn a few tricks playing against such a great team as Samsung White and see what you can learn.
We saw their game earlier today. They actually had a pretty decent start in the laning phase against EDG. I think this game will really be about small victories for Dark Passage. When they were coming into Worlds, they didn't really say they were going to go win the World Championship. Right. Really, after Gamescom, they just said they wanted to play against Korean teams. They wanted to see how they stack up, and they're going to be able to see that specifically in the laning phase. The individual accomplishments, if they can pull something off, is all they're going into this game hoping for.
They are still strong individual players. When you see the team fights come together is when the coordination starts to fizzle for them, and you can see world-class teams really start to come out on top. They are able to make some moves, but it's going to have to be early because that's when Samsung White will take a hold of the game. Take some bans.
Now the question is here, will Dark Passage try and go for a bit of an AHQ kind of comp against White where you can try and make some early moves, see if you can get a lead and try and snowball the game? It obviously didn't work for AHQ. The level 1 was a big deal. back then or in yesterday's game here, but we could see Dark Passage try and do the same.
I feel like you only get one pre-minion spawn ace per world championship.
Well,
we could be wrong.
We will see.
Pretty heavy top lane focus bans here from Samsung White. They know Fabulous is pretty devastating when he gets going. I like the Kazakhs top lane actually in their last game. It did show some effectiveness. You can tell White isn't taking them lightly just because they're a huge underdog.
No, and it's actually also a thing they were talking about. Like, interview we had with him saying, we want to take every game serious. We want to show that, yes, our last year was a mistake. I mean, we don't want to underestimate any teams here. So I actually expect pretty serious picks from White and also a good serious performance.
Plus, they got to boost up their stats a little bit more. I mean,
Oh,
they
of
had
course.
34 kills in that 22-minute game against AHQ after that level 1 ace. It'll be tough to top that one. Surprising they actually did let them get Alistair, though.
So let's see what Fabulous can do on it. I mean, normally, again, he is the Kha'Zix type. He loves to play in Italy as well. If he builds like 24 static shift on an Alistar, he might be able to do some split pushing. But because you just see him try and roam around, and I'm just going to say it here, Alistar is great for level 1, a bit like Blitzcrank. As long as you get the first move, you can knock up a target here, kill the first target. We might see some level 1 stuff.
And a really great pickup, even with Rengar still on the board. Dandy takes away Crystal's favorite, that Lee Sin, who was actually making some plays on it previously.
Yeah, it's a little bit too bad we don't get to see Crystal play Lee Sin, but guess what? We get to see Dandy play Lee Sin. He was super devastating in that game against AHQ. At one point, I think he was 9, 2, and 11, like 14 minutes in. Definitely a playmaker. I actually expect White to pick plenty of playmaking champions here because if the game does get out of hand, they're going to know how to have a little bit of fun.
Well, that's also you have the Rise already locked in for the late game. So if we're going to see all these, just in case, this is a backup plan in case it goes wrong in the early game, you can then wait for late game. You do have the Rise here. On the other side, though, for Dark Passage, we did see Touch play Thresh in the last game. He tried to make some big plays. It just really didn't pay off.
You can't have a Dark Passage team not take the Dark Passage champion.
Yeah, that's
they
very
would
true.
instantly lose.
And we've been seeing a little bit more love coming out for Janna as well throughout Worlds here. Consecutive plays from these last few games.
We actually often see also picked into Thresh here, and if you build a Mikhails, you can pretty much stop the entire engage potential for Touch on Dark Passage side here. So we have to see what Mata wants to build. Soul Stealer, of course, could work too if you want to get some early kills.
Yeah, seeing a Twitch from Imp would be pretty exciting.
Oh,
And Bait
there
would
it
be
is.
even more exciting. Deficio and I were actually talking about this just before the game. We're thinking if Samsung White wants to just kind of have a fun game or really prove themselves, we're thinking, which champions are they going to play? And we actually happened across a Vayne Janna lane because it will give Imp the shield and potency to go in hard.
And 1 year ago, Imp was probably considered the best Vayne player in the world.
This is going to be a pleasure.
And now he's going to show it again. Hopefully going to show it again.
Holy Phoenix looking to bring out the Jinx within this game. We'll see if he can do it. The Orianna goes down for a bit of safety around it, but like we said, this is really going to be Dark Passage trying to get small victories out of the game as they are about to face the powerhouse Samsung White. Talon locked in for Pawn in the mid lane.
And we have seen him play it before where he killed a certain Faker in the mid lane. Obviously that was against a Kassadin and not an Orianna, which is a bit safer, but still somewhat the same deal. I do actually like the comp here from Dark Passage. It's very, very strong in team fights. So if they do manage to survive the lane phase and group as a team, they do have a lot of CC. There's some good damage here. Get a target low. You get Holy Phoenix going. He loves to play Jinx because he loves to get the resets.
Yeah, it's a really good point there, Deficio. If Samsung White takes them lightly in the laning phase in the early game, there's a lot that could end up getting away from them. Alistair could get to a point where he's tanky. The Jinx resets could come in and they can make something happen. However, it's probably not going to happen. This is Samsung White, and they also have a ridiculously powerful team composition. The amount of damage they have coming out of those rolls is rather massive.
And the amount of pick potential they have as well. I mean, you have a Talon in the mid lane, you have a Vayne, of course. Everyone here can just kill Dark Passage if they're out of position, which they might end up being in this game.
All right, so before we get any shots fired here, we're going to head over to Twitter. Tell us which team you think will prevail here. Tweet hashtag DPWin or SSWin to @LOL Esports, and we'll be tracking how you guys are voting throughout the game.
It's pretty fun to root for the underdog, too. Even with that good lane phase against EDG, I saw they had like an 80% vote at some point during the game. Keep it up, because eventually they'll be able to hear that support, especially coming into this. You need to have a pretty thick skin as Dark Passage to come in against teams that are so much more experienced than you. It's not like Dark Passage has a chance to play 3 years of competitive League of Legends coming up to this. This is kind of like their season 1 or 2, where everyone else is playing on 2014.
I would love to see Dark Passage kind of go hard in this early game. Get Samsung White where they are known to be the best and really give them something else to think about here. It's obviously going to be a great back and forth throughout the entire matchup. We're going to see how much fun we can get throughout this game.
And just for looking at the summoner spells, 2 exhaust from Dark Passage, because again, you are against Vayne, you are against the Talon, even a Rise, you can use exhaust against here. So they are really setting up for a great team fight. And once again, it's going to be all about this early laning phase here, if they can survive it, and of course, if they can avoid dying to Dandy on this Lee Sin.
How about a great level 1 coming in right now? It'll be real interesting to see what ends up happening off this one.
Slow but sure. DP is playing very, very smart right now. Not getting too antsy. And these are the plays that they need. Fabulous able to make his way in the brush, keeping Holy Phoenix safe on this one as well.
And I love the fact they're not scared. I mean, they saw what happened yesterday when you tried to invade on Samsung White at level 1, but they're ready to do it again. You do have the Thresh here, land the hook, and then you have Alistar CC. You might be able to get a kill. Samsung White are ready, though.
They're pretty patient right here. They're just hoping that Samsung White is trying some type of delayed invade, in which case they would be able to get the jump on them, but they just didn't luck out in this sense. White had scouted everywhere else. They're not really willing to check the one spot they haven't scouted.
Minions have spawned.
Slow play, interestingly enough, coming in from Samsung White. We'll see if Imp and Mata can control the lane as they like to throughout the start here. Holy Phoenix and Touch known to put down a little bit of pressure as well. Holy Phoenix likes to get himself into some trouble in the early games. Has some trouble dodging the skill shot, so he should be all right if he can just dodge the Howling Gales for now.
I just want to highlight the ward Samsung White will always place in the middle lane at level 1. Often it is simply to spot, first of all, if people are running like from the top side of the map down to the bottom side, but it's also to see what the mid laner is doing, because often the mid laner will actually move a little bit to the side where you're starting with your buff, just to be there to kind of check if anyone is late invading. So they're going to see Naru move a little bit towards the bottom side, and therefore they suddenly know red buff.
It's the free way of scouting for them. They don't need to get the dangerous ward. Instead, they'll place a safer ward, which can still give them the same intelligence. It's only something that happens after a lot of good coaching and strategy.
Small advantages to be grabbed in the early game. Allow the jungler to make those first hits really count. We'll see if Dandy does anything crazy, as he usually does towards the early part of the game, as things are pretty even across the board. Level 2 is about to be hit here in the bottom lane. We'll see who gets the upper hand on that advantage. Oh, it's going to be Samsung White. They hit it fast, but actually a great hook coming in from Touch. The play goes out, and that exhaust comes up very big. Silver Bolts have been taken second by Imp, and that's going to be putting out a lot of damage. Can the reset come in? If it is, Holy Phoenix may be able to close the gap. It's all up to Touch. Can the flay damage come out?
Nice
No, they
tornado.
turn around once again. Mata Flash is trying to give himself the damage, and everybody's going to be alive on this one.
It's not over yet here. Look at the minimap. Dandy's coming down towards this bottom lane. He might try and go for a kill.
There's not very many wards. Holy Phoenix needs to get out of there. He knows it too. He's not going to stick around for the greed. He is definitely recalling, and
But now it's
for
Touch.
now he's safe. That's a pretty tricky to execute dive, but we'll see if they go for it. Samsung White's a pretty good team.
7 of 8 summoners burned in that bottom lane. Touch still have his flash.
Oh, nice
Great
hook.
teleport was canceled out. Stopped out by Fabulous. He decides not to come down. Looper wasn't close to stop that.
So teleport burned right there. Something that was very wise there was to not end up teleporting him because they'd already disengaged. Even though it was a great hook, it was on the wrong target because he didn't have turret aggro. Right. At the end of the day, it is an advantage for Samsung White because they forced the recall and the teleport.
See where they decide to go from here. A lot of pressure towards that bottom lane. They know the flashes are going to be down, and I feel like Dandy's going to make a repeat trip there quite soon after he clears the top. Fabulous keeping this push for Looper.
And Naru in this mid lane here, he should be able to keep the lane under control, at least in the first few levels before we see the Talon level 6, and then you can really start jumping onto targets.
Yeah, the Talon is not actually a very potent laner against Orianna. It's a dangerous matchup for Pond to kind of be picking into. It is because he's so versatile, and it's because he has so much confidence, but Naru in his own right is a fantastic mid laner.
Yeah, and I mean, he's shown, first of all, his champion pool is huge, but also the mechanics he's shown on certain champions like Zed in the wildcard tournament really impressed me. But again, Talon in the mid lane, you also need items because you are a bit of an all-in type, and if you don't have the damage to kill targets, when you go for the all-in, you take a lot of damage in return.
And also the biggest thing that Naru didn't face against in the International Wildcard Tournament, as great as you can play against an enemy mid laner, he's also playing against Dandy. So
Right.
the potential gang presence and his ability to maneuver around wards when they're down on the map, which, by the way, is very poor ward coverage in the mid lane right now by Dark Passage, is something you can't really prepare or practice for.
Well, in their 20 games, including playoffs, Pond only took that talent once, but he did get a victory on it at 8-2-6, so he knows what he's doing, and so far keeping Naru at bay, but Naru's farming up nicely. No kills to come out of that mid lane just yet, or any lane for that matter, and that's going to help DP at least in the early part of the game. They've been able to stave off Samsung White's very early aggression.
Yeah, and been a lot of action down this bottom lane. We also saw Crystal move down in case Dandy showed up. If they're ready for counter gank, would be very hard for him to actually go for the gank himself because the lane was pushed so far up here. But for now, both teams still fairly even. No kills yet.
So as soon as the death sentence was down, Imp decided to go in aggressively. The Flame Chompers are the only thing keeping them alive there, but the damage is done. Touch can't sustain that back up.
The warding down here making Dark Passage feel pretty confident about getting some hooks in, but Samsung White knowing when they can trade back efficiently. Clockwork wind up a few times onto Pawn as they keep going back and forth to that mid lane, and he has evened out the CS quite nicely. See a little bit of action towards the top lane as Dandy looking to make sure he can draw any bit of movement.
This is actually when the teleport earlier from Fabulous hurts, because he would have gone back and sustained up, bought some items. Now he's going to miss out on substantial amount of experience in minions, because if he stuck around, he would have been too vulnerable for ganks.
Yeah, exactly. And the only way Dark Passage could kinda win on the situation was if they actually got a gank in the bottom lane. Now the teleport from Lubo is on cooldown, and then they could use the Alistar. But that's such a risky play, and of course not the ideal situation.
And you can see the lane pressure is accumulating fairly well here. Pawn actually used his ultimate, very low cooldown ultimate on Talon, just to force Naru back to base. It's continuing to keep the pressure up. They're not having to back on their timers, right? They're forcing Dark Passage to back when Dark Passage doesn't want to, and White is controlling that pace.
Giving themselves the windows to make things work here. Pawn's going to make it back to lane, and really he's going to be able to pick up the CS to keep it even still. Great brush control here coming in from Samsung White. Touch, going to fizzle that out a little bit with a beautiful ward.
Once again, down this bottom lane here, Crystal waiting. There's a pink ward from Dark Passage, so they know he's not spotted just yet. But it's still going to be very hard to pull this gank off here. I mean, Imp is very mobile on this vein. You have to Janna as well.
And we're 7 minutes into this game with a level 4 Kha'Zix sitting in a pink ward. His red buff is up.
Yeah, he should be farming.
Needs to clear that. He should just take that red buff before he goes down, because he is not effective at this juncture. Even if he had the gank to go on, I don't think you're killing the Janna.
No, I mean, overall, Crystal has just been wasting too much time. He was up in the top lane as well, and he just stayed there for like 10 seconds, and then he moved away once again, and not really been able to apply any pressure on the lanes. And in this mid lane, Naru suddenly in trouble.
I love this play by Pawn. He's just using his ultimate pretty much on cooldown for the harassment. It's creating so much pressure. Now he has to ultimately respect Dandy no matter what, because the follow could still kill from Talon.
Well, you're getting that Talon ultimate every 1 minute, but you're also getting Crystal here hugging the bottom lane. It's pushed up a little bit too much, so he's not going to get too much out of this. After grabbing the red, he repeats his same path.
And Fabulous, we talked about before how the teleport or the lack of teleport could hurt him. He actually walked all the way back to top lane, and you see once again Crystal was down this bottom lane. Dark Passage, they want to get a kill in the bottom lane and then use this teleport advantage to get a dragon.
And that teleport advantage, even though Fabulous has it up now, before he went back to base, the lane was actually kind of close, but it was frozen as he went back to base. Looper picked up all that farm, and now it may be insurmountable.
It's simply just Dark Passage hoping to get this one kill and then take the dragon. Like, they invested so much into the potential dragon, even lost the blue buff now for Crystal.
Here's the worst part, though. If they want to go and get war control over the dragon area, they would need some type of presence in the mid lane, but Naru has been trapped in his turret by Pawn, so no one can safely go elsewhere. He just continues to pressure him down.
Drew out the exhaust as well. Everything working in Samsung White's favor. I feel like the first dragon is just going to open this game wide, and it's going to be a run through for Samsung White. DP holding out strong here. 10 minutes on the clock coming up.
And the early armor here for Naru actually saved his life. Yep. Brutalizer instantly from Talon or Pawn in the mid lane, and just going aggressive. Every single time he has the chance, jump onto Naru here and force him back.
Dragon. That's exactly what it is. Cool down, cool down, cool down. Every time his ultimate is up, clear it out. Dandy, easy dragon, because Kha'Zix is nowhere to be found.
Strong, methodical play, as usual, coming in from Samsung White. Looper staying in the top lane pretty much unscathed, and giving him a safe lane is not what you want to have.
This has actually been a pretty interesting opener to the game. Obviously, Samsung White is winning, which is what is expected. But what's a little bit surprising is the manner in which they are winning. 10 minutes into the game, they still haven't drawn first blood, yet they're still in complete control of the game. I expect them to have a little bit more fun in that sense, but they're just pulling out a nice, decisive victory.
I think they feel you a little bit there, Chad, as they go in quite hard from brush control here in the bottom lane, pushing it out once again. And if they're not getting the kills, they're just pushing the lane out completely, and they're still getting the victory on it.
Well, that was a nice little setup by Samsung White. I mean, ulti was popped by Imp, and he then in stealth tumbled actually behind Holy Phoenix here, and then forced him to flash away. So once again, Samsung White again, they're controlling the lanes in the mid lane as well. Every single time there's a cooldown red before he jumps on, and there's no kills, but it doesn't really matter because slowly Samsung White is going to get more and more farm. They already picked up the dragon, and it's just a matter of time before they pick up the 1 kill they need to open the game.
This is all happening as well. 2,000 gold on Imp as they control the game in that bottom lane, so he's going to go back and be even more powerful. Holy Phoenix putting that BF sword in. He has not been able to get any resets on his side.
The most surprising thing to me, actually, was the fact that Mata had saved up 1,300 gold. He did end up picking up the early Sightstone. Normally, when I watch Samsung White, they'll actually complete the Boots of Mobility before the Sightstone, but knowing that Vision is actually not as big a priority in this game as usual, since there's not much roaming going around from Dark Passage, and White is controlling them so well in the lanes, he just decided not for the mobility boots.
It's kind of weird to see more DP wards on the map right now than you would Samsung Whites. This is where Mata really just excels in the game. Right now his pink wards are to come out. That's his other forte. So he's going to be working those now and just denying Dark Passage Vision in the bottom.
I like how Dandy's just been living in the top side of the jungle. He went in for the blue buff. He's been taking the big red every single time as well.
He's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been sitting and farming, to be honest. He went back, he got mobility boots before his Elder Lizard, so we should see him start roaming around. But he's basically just been farming because every lane is doing fine.
And the first team fight we actually see in this game could either give Dark Passage a chance or completely win the game for Samsung White because they're developing such an advantage from the laning phase alone.
One hook, Mata gets hit up. Oh, trying to get the passage over to Crystal, but he missed it on the first touch, and it was a little lackluster on the gank.
Almost managed to set it up and did actually force a flash here. Top lane, Fabulous taking a lot of damage.
I mean, this is one of the things that happens. You fall behind in the lane as Alistar, so you try and build the Sheen, but the Catalyst may have been needed for the sustain. He's in pretty big trouble here.
Trying to work his ultimate to break the rule. Prison gonna headbutt into the turret. That's not what you want to have happen. It's gonna wear off soon. And that's one last. Oh, wait a minute! It's going to be so close. He cannot try to get back in for the fight, though. Wow.
That was a little dicey there by Fabulous. He ended up almost getting a kill, but at the end of the day, even trade.
On to the bottom lane.
Dandy making his first appearance here for the big gank, but they flash out a well-placed box to disengage the entire lane push there. Dark Passage stays alive once again.
We talked about small victories for Dark Passage, honestly. Even though they're down 2.3k gold, if they won a team fight, they could actually be even with White 13 minutes into the game. If anything, it's a victory to not die to Samsung White 13 minutes into the game and counting.
Had that 38 kill game, 20 minutes, was it? Yeah, I'd say it's a victory right now. Still pushing past the turret. Touch. This is where it gets a little hairy. The flashes have been blown. The kick comes back. Oh, once again! The plays from Touch on the Dark Passage.
Beautiful.
The entire team is now here. Naru's actually out of mana, so I don't know how much they can really chase this. It looks like it's just going to be flexing the muscles, getting Samsung White to push out.
So Samsung White here, they keep their aggression going here. They want to chase for this first blood, but every single time, Dark Passage managed to disengage.
That was a really nice lantern placement there by Touch to just save the day. However, the damage is still kind of done. They're losing control of that lane. They're down 40 CS to a Vayne. That is not good.
The question is just, for how long can they avoid dying? I'm going to say 17 minutes and 50 seconds.
Holding it to them, holding you. Looper with the Rod of Ages coming in the top lane. He is now happy to just charge up still. Waiting to make some teleport plays. He's going to go ahead and actually teleport right towards the blue buff. Does he catch Naru?
Don't worry.
Naru is going to be forced to flash as well. Looper looking to make plays by himself here with the rest of the team to work their way in.
It's subjective bullying right now is all they're really trying to do. They're just trying to force Dark Passage into fighting them. They don't necessarily have fantastic engage on the Samsung White team outside of a Rude Prison, so they kind of need the fights to come to them or get a pick in the open where Pawn can use the open battlefield to chase his prey.
Look at the top lane here. Oh, one going for Crystal.
Oh, great flash over the wall.
Still alive, still alive.
All these defensive flashes, I mean, at this point, you'd think the next point of contention would be the Dragon, but because all the flashes have been burned defensively by Dark Passage, they may not even think it wise to contest at that point.
But what we do see from Samsung White, even though they're constantly chasing this potential first blood, they don't over-chase. They're not over-aggressive here. They're just playing it fairly safe and making sure they don't give Dark Passage any kills or any chance actually to potentially win a later team fight.
This is what Samsung White was talking about in their interview footage earlier, is that suffocation game. It doesn't have to come with kills. It doesn't have to be a bloody suffocation game.
They know, even though they can't see the gold, they know that they're pulling ahead fairly substantially. They have the turrets, they've been bullying neutral monster objectives consistently. They can press tab and see that Imp is 30 CS ahead of Holy Phoenix. They know everything is going well according to plan. It's just not as stompy as they may have hoped.
Well, Imp now doing his thing, free farming in the top, as Samsung usually leaves him to after the laning phase is crushed. But DP rather, is now going to put a little bit more focus on the top lane. Crystal trying to prep this one for a return gank if they can hopefully take down Imp. He's getting pretty big right now, 145 to 112 in that CS, and already finished on his play to the Rune King.
And I do love all the early cooldown reduction on Atella. I mean, your ulti is already rather low cooldown, and the more you can get off here, the more picks you can go for. You can even engage the fights because you have a Janus, so put the shield on the pawn, let him jump in, and then be ready with Mate from the disengage side, and as long as pawn stays alive, it's a good engage.
Another uncontestable Dragon here. I don't know if Threat is in range of Dark Passage for this guy.
Ooh, Holy Phoenix hoping to get out of the ashes on this one, but I don't think he's gonna come back up. First blood going over to Dandy on that one.
An inch away, and now we can see it's already 5,000 gold. The 600 gold there from the first blood across the team is a lot, and the map control is suffocating.
Absolutely. They continue to put themselves in the jungle of Dark Passage. Fabulous cannot join the team yet. With the ultimate being the tank, everybody is just getting taken out too fast in these fights. Samsung White continuing now to take Dragon, pushing to the bot lane and utterly controlling the map. You can see how fast their wards moved into the side of Dark Passage.
We can also see how the warding on the map often is determined by where Dandy is actually running around, because he was in the top side for like the first 10 minutes, but now he's been putting all his attention on the bottom side, and look at all the wards on the minimap here from both him and Master together to make sure, okay, I can roam in the jungle of Dark Passage, I can always walk behind them when they're trying to farm the lanes, like we just saw Holy Phoenix try to do here, and it means at least Crystal could potentially get a blue buff or give it to his mid laner.
Yeah, well, with the second Sightstone being completed on Samsung White, they're going to try and get greater control of the map. Even though Dandy was just on the bottom side, it's up to Mata and Imp there to control this side. A couple good defensive pink wards there for Dark Passage, but they can pink ward to know where Samsung White is. With this gold disadvantage, even if they know, they may not be able to do anything about it.
And that's always going to be the problem once you do fall this far behind here. And Samsung White, they know it, of course, just constantly walking in the jungle. Plays a few more wards and
clear out the pinks.
make sure Imp, on Vayne can just sit and farm in this side lane.
He is going to be very, very scary. You can actually see Fabulous cannot do much but watch him push down these waves.
I feel like Im's got to be getting antsy. Like, he wants to kill somebody at this point. He's been farming 177 minions on Vayne. He had that scrap at level 1 that was really close, but he wants to do more. I can feel it.
We've seen that happen. He will get it, man. I think he'll get himself caught a few times before this game is over. We'll see, though.
Im's always got that big grin on his face every time he gets a kill. He needs to get that kill here.
Well, they did kill a tower, so...
That's true.
I mean...
Small victories.
Very, very small.
Sated the thirst for some time. He will be looking for those kills, though. That's all in Dandy's hands at the moment, making plays around the map. It looks like Looper getting himself pretty deep here.
This is not really the matchup you want for your AD carry. They're on his bottom lane in a one-on-one against a Talon who's already level 13 and can just jump and one-shot him pretty much. So Holy Phoenix has just been forced to actually give up the tower because he couldn't hold it, and even on the tower he would have died instantly.
Fight over blue buff.
Just gonna take it. Come on, Dandy. Oh, he missed. Yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah.
Who says?
My rules.
Oh, okay. There we go. He's going to try it one more time. Going for the red. It's going to be a 2v1. He does decide to give up on this one a little bit, knowing that Naru left lane. And the rest of the team is kind of doing their own thing. Looper's on like solo mission now. Dandy finally joins him, or rather, Looper finally joins Dandy.
No. He didn't even have a smite that time. He stole it with the resonating strike. Sonic Wave, actually.
mind games. Mind games being
That
played
one was
right
fair enough. That was fair enough.
Yeah, that was a fair steal. He played by the rules this time. You can rarely see now how, even though Dark Passage was kind of holding their own in lane, they got bullied off of so many objectives without being able to retaliate. It's now out of hand, even though they've only died once. It's one of the risks of kind of giving up all these superior things to a superior team in hopes that they'll dive you and make a mistake. If the team's smart enough to just not dive you and make that mistake, they'll take every small advantage and turn it into a victory.
Oh, this is so unfortunate, too. Holy Phoenix being on some of his favorite champions, but not being able to get resets because he's getting taken down solo on the other side of the map. Dandy's going to continue a 2v1 by himself. Looper says, "You're mine," and he may even get another one. The bolt comes flying through in the double kill for Imp as they start to just choke down on that suffocation play.
And suddenly Samson White says, now we're gonna get some kills here. We see the fighter blue buff, 4 kills up there. Oh, sorry, 3 kills up there, and of course down this bottom lane. Again, we just talked about Talon against Jinx. Not really a fair matchup.
And we saw with the way Dark Passage was giving away objectives, if they could have found a team fight that they came out on top of, it would have been able to kind of make up for them giving up the objectives and create a somewhat even game. But as soon as you lose that team fight or give up a couple of kills, the game becomes nearly unwinnable. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. 11,000 gold, almost 10,000 gold at 21 minutes.
Yeah, but again, you just have to try. Because if you keep playing this game, you're going to fall further and further behind.
It's honestly not a terrible strategy by Dark Passage, the way they entered into this game.
No, I agree.
I think the games they watched yesterday with Samsung White was playing pretty crazy. We saw Imp doing some really silly things.
Little intense, yeah.
You know, we saw the fact that they had that absolutely ridiculous game against HQ, but now Samsung White has the lead. They're going to go where they want.
And a touch too much. Looper going to be able to take him down right quick. Teleports in once again, keeping that famed teleport on lockdown. He gets himself right in the fight. 4v1 for himself right now as the team comes in from the backside. Health bars are being completely demolished right now. The double for Looper as Dandy picks up another one on the side.
Yeah, again, we just see how far Dark Passage is actually behind, because every time they try and do something, they do no damage.
Just wanted that right around the golem.
The longest shot I've seen from Vayne in quite some time. And yeah, you're right there, Deficio. It goes from 10,000 to 13,000, just like that.
All right, now Samsung White close the game out, or do they continue to chase around here?
Well, they did wait 16 and a half minutes, was it, for their first kill?
Yeah.
We'll see how many they can get before the end of the game at this point. This fight was just Samsung White being so far ahead. I mean, Fat Fabulous doesn't get to zone because he'd already used his cooldown, so Looper gets to walk straight up. Imp gets the move speed from his Vayne ultimate, and they can just chase everyone down from Dark Passage. It doesn't matter if you land a shockwave at this point if you don't have items.
Can't believe Mata stayed alive there. That was a very nice flash on the outside of the play. Another Dragon going over to Samsung White, that 15,000 gold lead, and up 10-0 in kills. 5-0 in turrets, shutout possibly to come into this game. And item spikes far and ahead as the Spooky Ghost gets pulled out for Mata.
Deficio, you are the support player. But we'll talk about the Spooky Ghost after this. Imp shot. Oh, another one. Max range. Jeez.
Oh,
it's not done yet.
Man, they are still going for this fight. A little bit of brush control is going to be good for this one. Double kill coming in for Imp. He keeps the shot coming. The triple kill for Imp. Looking for the quadra.
They want to give him the
and they are going to get it.
Yeah.
The penta kill to come in for Imp. Penta kill.
Does it count when the Alistair stops running away? I think that's like maybe 1/3 of a penta if you're not actually earning the last guy as soon as he stops. But it's still pretty well earned. 15-0 now, and the surrender.
The surrender indeed. 23-27 on the clock. A complete shutout coming in for Samsung White.
And again, we talked about it through the game, to be honest. I mean, every single blue buff picked up by Samsung White. They got every single dragon. They controlled every single lane. Dark Passage had a tactic. Say, give them the objectives. We don't want to fight too early. Did pay off.
It was a game we expected. Obviously, Dark Passage had some type of strategy to just hope that Samsung White would get over-aggressive before they had an advantage. But of course they didn't. They bided their time. They got the advantage in the lane. And when they turned it on, they turned it on.
And let's be honest, if they did get over-aggressive, they probably would have been able to handle it quite well.
Yeah.
Playing superbly in that one. A great strike at 17 minutes, and they didn't let go after that for first blood.
But still, as we talked about before the game actually started, this is a learning experience for
Right,
Dark Passage.
absolutely.
And again, as a player, when you face such a good team, just like one-on-one in the laning phase, you will notice some small tricks and you might be able to pick them up yourself. I mean, you're going to see the way they move in the lane. You're going to see when do they actually go for the engages. Like down the bottom lane, you pointed out how Touch missed his hook and instantly you saw him go forward, be aggressive here. And those small things, you can notice them, you can watch a replay and use it actually to improve your own play.
And even the bigger picture stuff, experiencing what it's like to never have safety or not being able to farm in your lane or never being able to push up are things that you can kind of figure out how it happened to you. It just takes a while to implement it. You can't exactly just learn it overnight or even in a boot camp for that matter.
So the David and Goliath matches are coming to be played out as many thought. We do see Samsung White kind of toppling the group so far, but a lot can still come out of EDG. A lot can still come out of the rest of these teams. We'll have to see what AHQ can do as well.
Yeah. While we have a moment, though, I do want to talk about the pentakill.
Okay.
Was that a legitimate pentakill, in your opinion? I think it's a little bit...
So
because he stopped
First of all, there was no flash for Fab.
Are you going to get away at that
so
point?
He was never going to get away.
He wouldn't be able to escape, exactly. Right. I mean, we even had the Twin Shadows. We barely talked. We didn't actually even talk about it, but Twin Shadows from Mata, he could have used it as well. Would have caught him. It would have been perfect item.
Plus, there's the extended timer on the pentakill. You know, upon further examination.
Yes.
That
I mean, they would have killed him no matter what.
That was an earned pentakill. I stand corrected. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, 100%.
You were also saying that they're going to have to force a fight. So it was a forced fight. They just took it as they could. And that was a pentakill. So, yeah. Locked it down. Great job by Imp coming in. The first pentakill coming in for Worlds, which makes me hope that we'll see quite a bit more. It probably won't be coming from a Vayne. They were able to do a few of the picks that they were able to kind of show off within this game. And it definitely was that pentakill to show it off. Let's send it over to our guys at the Think Tank analyst desk for more on Samsung White's win.
Thank you very much, Riv. Guys, here on the Think Tank, it's not much to break down here. Samsung White executing a perfect game. 0 deaths, 0 dragons given up, 0 towers giving up. Absolutely demolishing Dark Passage. They got themselves the pentakill. I want to talk about the duo lane. Vayne Janna, best lane in the world?
No. Within the context of their composition, it was fine, but when you pick that when you don't even know what the enemy's going to pick, and, you know, Thresh Jinx is a lane where, yes, if you can get a shield onto Vayne and you can get that tumble, it can hurt, but you run into a real risk if you are tumbling like that to getting flayed into traps. I mean, there's so much hard CC that you're probably going to lose, and you also can get poked out as well. So
it's just mechanics practice. Come on.
Yeah.
So it managed to work out for them. I want to ask probably the Talon versus Orianna. We saw Pawn constantly throwing his ultimate over and over and over. Talk to me about the matchup and how he played that out.
So I guess it's kind of counterintuitive because you think about it and you go, all right, Talon without ult, he's not going to kill him. But in that matchup, it's actually really hard to ever get a free kill on Orianna. So using your ultimate on cooldown the way he did with the Brutalize their first buy was perfect because after he uses ult and Orianna went low, he's now able to just auto attack to get all the CS because Ori can't harass that back. She's too low from what just happened. And then it's a ticking time bomb. Talon gets ult in 30 seconds. So it's going to happen again. So it's almost like Orianna has to buy 5 health pots every back and then has to trade really well. So it's kind of like, it's just terrifying to play that lane.
Yeah, it really worked out in Samsung's favor. They mechanically outshone their opponents. One thing that stood out for me was their buff control. We were looking at the gold lead despite having next to no kills by the 20-minute mark. 7 blue buffs and 6 red buffs over the course of the game. In contrast to Dark Passage, they had 1 blue and 2 reds. I mean, when you can't even control your own jungle, there's literally no way you're actually going to be able to be relevant and stay in this game.
No, and not only that, but they were basically Samsung White was running from red buff to blue buff on the enemy side over and over again while the mid turret was still up. There's not really a way to get out-rotated harder than that. I mean, that's... Because basically, when you still have that mid-outer up, you should always be able to reach your other buff faster. And Dandy also, it must be said, I mean, we were just taking a look at some of the information from this game. Dandy was 3 levels up very early in this game by about 15 minutes, and they did that just through objective control and buff stealing and dragons mostly. So it was pretty impressive jungling from Dandy on the whole. And then, you know, I want to talk about the Vayne pick a little bit because this is something we're likely to see a bit more in this tournament with big-time Vayne players like Imp and Uzi.
First Vayne of the tournament and secures a pentakill.
Yeah, and it won't be the last because when you leave the Alistar up and you are on red side, then if they take it and they put it up in the top lane, Vayne is one of those champions through the percent damage and the true damage that will be able to deal with this. Because when Alistar comes in, especially if you have some sort, like if you have Vayne there and you have a zoning tool to keep the rest of the team out, you can quickly burst down a hyper tank. It's good against Maokai as well.
Very quickly before we get to the replay.
Okay, just one thing. So sending Vayne top against that, I think better teams are going to be able to realize that kind of fault with a top lane and not allow that to happen. When Vayne went top, it was very predictable. They should have been able to see that coming after the bot turret fell. And if they were just able to lane swap, they could have avoided that. But it was kind of like Dark Passage wasn't really aware they're going to do this. And after Alistar was stuck top against Vayne, it was just now they're going to bleed turrets.
And that's exactly what happened. We talked about the pentakill. Let's pull this one up onto your screens. It is the first pentakill here, day 2 of the World Championships between Prolly and Monty. Let's talk through this clip as we roll it out, because as Monty said, impin' ain't easy.
Impin' ain't easy. Well, I mean, coming in here, I mean, Naro just dies to the burn right there. And it looked a little risky for him. He gets hit by the traps and the Alistar knock-up, but gets saved right there by Mata. And then Dandy's there for a little bit more protection. And Looper from the side makes sure Touch can't get out either. And then, you know, good guy Fabulous.
To zoom in.
Gives up the last one.
That's some classy camera work. Prolly, Jat asked it on the set. Was that a legit pentakill? You're going to be the final say.
I would say yeah, because that cow was not going to get away.
No, there was no way.
He accepted his fate, and he's like, I'm going to think about what to buy now, and just opened up his shop.
became a big piece of steak. Anyways, guys.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing about the takeaway of this, because the AHQ game was a little bit more scrappy, and we saw some more cocky plays from Samsung White. But this game was a very different story. You know, 0 kills until pretty early into the mid game. Very methodical control of objectives. You can see how intelligent White is here, as well as good at skirmishing and maybe overplaying their hand a little. Very impressive to get a perfect game.
I'm actually happy you mentioned that, because in the matchup of Samsung White versus Edward Gaming, they also had missed positions, especially in Imp in particular, that cost them some of those team fights. Anyways, we do want to check out how you guys are watching the World Championships all around the world. At Simon Monk Niels and some friends in class are working on their R's. Reading, writing, and renekton, if you say so. And from Crumbs, he writes, this is how I worlds. You may have the best view, but of course he's looking at us. So yeah, well played, dude. And then at Jack Doonan, he proves that even down under, they're chanting TSM. All right, we got another one coming to us from at Shiny Shedinja. Proves that cosplay isn't just for cons, and writes, this is how I world. 4 a.m. Renekton outfit, because who needs sleep anyway? Is that really a Renekton outfit? I couldn't actually see. We need a full body Renekton photo from our last photo. Anyways, send them to us how you're watching the action out of Taipei by tweeting at LOL Esports. Use the hashtag Worlds. In our next match, North America's Team Solo Mid will square off against the Taipei Assassins for what could be the second team to make it to quarterfinals. We're going to take some shots of a second. TSM in a huddle. Hey, the General's there. We'll see if any strategies he can provide will do better than the ones that worked against World Club. TPA, thinks that's them. Yes, chatting a little bit. Those are serious faces. They definitely don't want to disappoint their home crowd. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Dandy is going to continue a 2v1 by himself. Looper says you're mine, and he may even get another one. 4v1 for himself right now as the team comes in from the backside. Health bars are being completely demolished right now. A little bit of brush control is going to be good for this one. Double kill coming in for Imp. He keeps the shot coming. The triple kill for Imp. Looking for the quadra.
They want to give him the
and they are going to give